Welcome to the Strength for Life podcast, where smart strength training meets real life. We're Dr. Matt and Nicole Klingler, founders of Village Fitness and Physical Therapy. Here, you'll learn what really works in the gym, at home, and for life. Welcome back to the Strength for Life podcast, your guide to strength, resilience, and longevity.
We're your host. I'm Nicole Klingler.
And I'm Dr. Matt Klingler, and we are the founders of Village Fitness and Physical Therapy.
Today, we're going to dive into creatine. I've been asked a ton lately from clients who are looking to build and maintain strength as to how they should supplement with creatine, if they should do it. So in today's podcast, we're going to do a deep dive into creatine and answer some of the most common questions that we get from our clients on a daily basis. So what is creatine? What does it even do? Is it safe, and what are some of the potential side effects? What is the best type to take? How much should you take? And much more. Plus, at the end, we're going to share a little bit more about one of the lesser known benefits of creatine, and I will get into the specifics of how and why women should supplement with creatine.
Awesome. So what is creatine? Well, creatine is a substance made from various amino acids. It's found 100% naturally in foods like beef, pork, and fish, and you are making creatine in your own body right now. So it's a very natural process. And creatine is completely normal and a healthy part of your metabolism. And you get it from various foods. However, to get the same amount of creatine that you would get in just a single scoop of powdered creatine, you'd need to eat about 3 pounds of beef.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of beef. Yeah.
I have a hard time eating half a pound.
Yes. So that would be 6 times half a pound. Now, creatine powers your muscles in the first 0 to 10 seconds of exercise. So think if you're trying to lift something heavy or react quickly, get up and down from the ground, catch yourself if you were to lose your balance and need to react and stop yourself from falling to the ground. So really important stuff, that first 0 to 10 seconds of exercise. And you may know that we generate energy using a molecule within our body called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. And as ATP powers energy, it loses one of its phosphates and becomes ADP, adenosine diphosphate. Creatine restores that phosphate back to the ADP, turns it back into ATP. And if this is getting too sciencey for you, creatine is really important in helping us put out energy faster and stronger. And so creatine functions to help recharge, and basically more creatine in your muscles allows you to train and perform harder for longer. And supplementing with creatine can increase muscle creatine levels by up to 30%, which leads to improved strength, power, and muscle mass. So creatine is one of the most studied supplements in existence. There's over 1,000 peer-reviewed studies that have investigated creatine, over 25 years of safety data, and it's dirt cheap. You can start supplementing with creatine for less than 50 cents per day. So many supplements are, $2, $5, $10 even on a daily basis from some of the more expensive ones, and creatine is certainly on the low end, especially considering how effective it's been proven to be. There was a 2021 meta-analysis that looked at 19 randomized controlled trials involving 720 older adults, so average age of 57 to 70. And the participants who took creatine, 3 grams a day or more, while doing resistance training, gained an average of 3 pounds more lean mass than those who trained without creatine. And that may not sound like a whole lot, 3 pounds of lean mass, but that's significant. When I've gained muscle in the past, even just a few more pounds of muscle, you can see it visibly in the mirror and you can feel it. When I really trained squats hard this past year, I went from squatting 250 to 315, and I only gained 4 pounds. And I think some of it was probably body fat, maybe a couple pounds of fat, and a couple pounds of muscle. And those few pounds of muscle were the thing that allowed me to squat significantly more weight, to be significantly stronger. And the folks in the study, they also saw greater improvements in strength, upper body and lower body strength, compared to those who are just taking a placebo. And this is the unique benefit of creatine. Creatine doesn't just power your muscles. There's also emerging research that it helps with cognition, specifically in older adults. It has a neuroprotective effect. So there's potential that it may support people with Parkinson's disease, people with Alzheimer's disease, or even just mild cognitive impairment. And then mitochondrial health is another emerging area of research that creatine has an impact on. So creatine helps recycle ATP, like we talked about, your body's energy currency, but it also supports your mitochondria, your cell's energy factories. And that's one of the reasons we're starting to see research come out for creatine and mitochondria. There's also some side effects that we wanted to get into and talk about with creatine. Just one scoop, and you will instantly begin speaking with an Austrian accent. Just like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you'll say, "I'll be back." And you'll develop huge muscles. And eventually, one day, you will become the governor of California and reminisce about your movies back in the 80s and 90s.
I know that's your dream, but I just don't think it's very realistic.
Well, yes, that is my dream one day, to have the giant muscles and the Austrian accent. I think I've got the accent. But now, next up is going to be the muscle. So
please don't run for office.
No. Just Glendora City Council maybe one day. No, just kidding. All right. So there are some side effects to creatine. One of them is weight gain. And I'm going to say this, I'll probably say it again. The weight you gain when you're taking creatine is from water, not fat. It's a really difficult thing for people to wrap their heads around. When they start taking creatine a month later, they step on the scale, they're a couple pounds heavier, and they freak out and think it's due to the fact that they've gained fat. It's because your body has pulled more water into your muscles, and that's a really, really good thing. This actually helps with performance. It makes your muscles look fuller and stronger and more firm. So typically people gain 1 to 3 pounds, sometimes up to 5 after starting to take creatine. And this isn't bloating or water under the skin. It's hydration where you want it inside your muscles. Number 2 is stomach discomfort, which is pretty rare, and we're going to talk about later on the right type of creatine to take to avoid stomach discomfort, but there are a small number of people who do experience GI upset or stomach cramping, especially when taking too much creatine at once. So I've heard of people loading with creatine. When I was in high school, I took creatine and I loaded, which means you take 4 times the normal dose for the first week to super saturate your muscles with creatine so you can get the results faster. That's just not necessary, the research shows. And avoiding that is one of the ways you can slowly introduce your body to creatine and help avoid any sort of stomach discomfort. And then the third is that there's some people that are concerned with their kidneys. And there's not really any evidence to show that creatine harms kidney function. However, if you do have kidney issues, you may want to check with your doctor really before taking any supplement, including creatine. So what is the best type of creatine? Well, if you Google creatine or walk into your local supplement store, you're going to be hit with an overwhelming number of options. Not just different brands, but actually different types of creatine. There's buffered creatine, creatine hydrochloride, creatine gluconate. The list goes on and on. But thankfully, there was a 2022 research study done in the journal Nutrients that compared various forms of creatine and found that all of them effectively increased muscle creatine stores. The fancy formulas did not outperform the classics. And so creatine monohydrate was the cheapest and also worked just as well as the other fancy formulas for increasing intramuscular creatine. Lots of companies will try and reinvent the wheel with their new and improved creatine formulas, and you don't need to follow their trends. So prices have gone up recently. The study showed, I think, that it was like, just 2-3 years ago, and it showed that creatine monohydrate was averaging about 19 cents per serving. But prices have gone up. So we use a brand called Momentous creatine monohydrate. And Nicole, I don't know if you want to talk about that in just a second here, but if you get on their subscription, it's like 33 cents per serving. And if you just buy it one-off, it's like 44 cents per serving. So a little bit more than that 19 cent per serving marker, but still a great deal. And it's a really high-quality product.
Yeah. So the difference between Momentous and some other companies that have creatine as a supplement is that it's Creapure, which is made in Germany, and it's a really clean, high quality form of creatine, and it's made with strict testing. So what makes it different is the purity, and so some creatines can have heavy metals in it, and that's really important because you're going to be supplementing with creatine every single day, and you don't want to be putting heavy metals into your body every day. So over time, heavy metals can build up and cause a toxic load in your body, and you really want to avoid that. And they also just kind of get stuck in your body. And so as much as you can, you really want to use a pure form of creatine, Creapure. And so that's what we use. We use a company called Momentous, and we've had a great experience with them, and it gets here really quickly. So if you've had any type of bloating too, the other thing that makes it pure is that they wash it with water when they make it instead of acid. And so if you've had like bloating or cramping with creatine in the past, sometimes that's because of the acid wash that the creatine supplement is made with, whereas Momentous does a water wash. And so you're a lot less likely to get that bloating and stomach issues when taking creatine. So we'll put the link in the description if you're interested in using Momentous.
Cool. So how much creatine should someone be taking? Some studies using ultra low doses, like 1 to 2 grams per day, actually didn't show much benefit. For example, there was a study done on female swimmers taking 2 grams per day for 6 months, and then another group that was taking 1 gram a day for a year, and they didn't see any performance improvements. However, a study looking at younger adults, like 20-somethings, showed that 3 and 5 grams per day both worked to increase strength and size more than a placebo. And so just like protein, my thought is that older adults probably need a little bit more stimulus than younger adults to get the same effect. So I think if we know that 3 works for younger adults, I think it's safe to assume that 5 is probably a good place to start for an older adult. And that's exactly how much is in the traditional little scooper that you'll find within a creatine bottle. So just 1 scoop of that per day. If you miss a day, don't stress out about it too much. Just get back on it the next day. I don't think this is the type of supplement that you need to like double dose on a following day. But if you do want to double dose, it's really not a huge deal. It's about loading over time. As opposed to any single day, kind of like exercise. And so timing wise, it really doesn't matter too much whether you do it pre-workout or post-workout. There's some evidence that mixing it with carbs and protein is effective. Nicole's going to share in just a second how she prepares her creatine. And then there is some research to show that taking it with caffeine may blunt the effects of creatine. There was a study that showed that when it was consumed with a caffeine pill, the effect of creatine was lessened. Something about those two interactions interfering with one another within the body. And so I've been taking creatine for a few months now, and one of the biggest changes I've noticed is with my bench press. So I was stuck at about 205 pounds for 5 reps on my bench press for months. And I started taking creatine, and I've just slowly seen that kind of jump up to about 225 for 5. And all guys know that you're not a man until you bench 225. And so now I feel like I've arrived, and creatine is what bridged the gap there. All joking aside, Nicole, what's your experience been like?
Yeah, so I started taking creatine a few months ago, and I've noticed a huge difference in my strength. My squats, I was squatting about 120, and now I'm able to squat 147, which
Dang, girl.
was very challenging to get there, but honestly, it felt like I made the most improvement in my squats over the last 3 months than I have over the last few years. I've also struggled on and off with knee pain, and my knee pain has almost completely disappeared since taking creatine. And it used to bother me both when I was squatting and then just sometimes just being on my feet all day or hiking, and I haven't noticed it nearly as much. And so I've noticed not only an improvement in my strength, but I think also in my joints as well. So what I do for my creatine supplementation is usually just after my workouts in the morning, I do a cup of whole grass-fed milk, and then I put a scoop of Ballerina Farms protein powder, and then a scoop of creatine, and then I usually blend it together with an immersion blender, and I drink it up. Sometimes I'll take some of my other like daily supplements and vitamins with it, just to get it all done and out of the way. And it's been great. My kids also love to take it, but I have to give them theirs without creatine. So I make them one as well.
I bet if we did this podcast a year from now, we would maybe consider giving our kids creatine. I don't think we've looked into the research enough on creatine and how it impacts kids.
Well, I just don't think there's enough research on kids because it's really hard to do research on kids and nutrition because
I would use our kids as research subjects gladly.
I don't think a lot of people would be willing to make that bet.
I'm willing.
So a year from now, maybe we'll touch base on that again. So
yeah, they'll probably turn into cyborgs.
I don't even know what that is.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah,
that's okay. Tell us about creatine in women.
Yeah. So creatine in women. So I think a lot of women have this myth that creatine and just weightlifting in general is going to make them big and bulky, and they don't want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. They want to look, lean and toned. And I think that the culture is changing and women are becoming more educated and understanding that strength training and supplementing can be really good for their physique. And I think they're less concerned with like the big bulky muscles. And so let's talk about specifically how, like, some considerations for women. So first, a lot of the research is showing that creatine is now considered a conditionally essential nutrient for women. And the reason is that as we age, as we go through things like pregnancy and postpartum, your body goes under a lot of stress. And so that paired with a low protein diet can really decrease how much creatine your body produces. And so it's especially important for you to supplement with creatine. So if you have any type of stress in your life, which I'm sure every single woman that is listening to this podcast can relate, then you should probably supplement with creatine. So that's probably every single one of you. Creatine is also important for anyone that is over the age of 55. So specifically with aging women, women have about 70 to 80% of the creatine stores that men do. And this continues to decline with age. So this means that women will actually sometimes see a bigger benefit than men when they start supplementing with creatine because they just start with less creatine stores than men do. And that paired with the fact that women often eat less animal protein than men means that we're just not getting as much creatine through food. And so it's especially important for them to supplement with creatine, and then also to make sure that your protein intake is high enough to support the lean mass that you're working so hard to build in the gym. And then another huge benefit of creatine for women is, like Matt said, is cognition. So a lot of times I hear from clients and from women specifically that they feel like they have brain fog, they feel overwhelmed, or they feel like their processing speed has slowed down. And I think that comes from just like a lot of excessive stress, and women tend to do a lot of multitasking. If you've had kids or grandkids or aging parents that you're taking care of, all of those things, you're often managing multiple things and inputs and stimuli all at once. And so that means that, we have extra mental load that we carry, I think, than men do. Men have this really amazing ability to just like focus in on whatever's going on. So I just see this with Matt. It's like he just, he starts working and he doesn't think about anything else. Whereas women, they're thinking about what they're making for dinner, if they got enough protein for breakfast, what they need to shop for, and all the other things that they have, all their appointments that they're managing. And they always have all these things going on in the back of their mind, which just means that they have extra stress. It's just how our brains are wired. So creatine can help with that. It can actually really help with clarity. I've noticed in the afternoons for myself with creatine, like I used to kind of feel like I had a slump in energy, and I haven't felt that as much recently. Like I would get to about 3 or 4 and I'd feel like, oh man, I'm kind of dragging, or it's harder for me to focus. And since beginning supplementation with creatine, I haven't felt that. The last thing is bone health, outside of obviously muscle health, but bone health. So women are at a higher risk of osteoporosis as we age. So you'll hear a lot of women say, they'll get bone scans and the DEXA scans, and they are worried about, osteopenia, osteoporosis. And there was a 2019 meta-analysis study that found that creatine and resistance training improved bone density in postmenopausal women, which is really important because often postmenopause women are losing bone density, not gaining it. And so, the combination of strength training and creatine is the key. And strong bones means that we have long-term independence. So if you have weak bones, you're more likely to end up breaking a bone and ending up in the hospital and losing some of that mobility. And so we want to stay mobile, confident, and capable as we age. The last benefit, which is not specific to women, is just strength and muscle. So there was a study that showed that older women gained more strength and lean muscle with creatine than without, sometimes even more than men. So again, they start with less stores than men, and so they'll actually see a greater increase in strength than men when they start supplementing with creatine. And it just really helps your body feel strong, stable, and more capable inside and outside of the gym. A couple of questions and concerns that I've had, which I addressed already, is will it make me bulky? And just to reiterate that, no, it will not make you bulky. It'll help you build lean muscle, improve your strength, and recover faster. And that, especially paired with lifting weights and eating enough protein, will get you to your goals. And then one last thing to say on that is how to ease in slowly. So Matt kind of mentioned like the front loading of creatine. So if you have any stomach issues or you're slightly concerned about this, for women specifically, what you can do is you can start by just slowly increasing your dosage. So you could start the first week with 2 grams, see how your stomach does with it. The second week, 3 grams, the third week, 4 grams, and then week 4 and beyond, go to 5 grams. And then Matt, we're going to do the final verdict.
Yeah. So, is creatine safe? Yes. Is it effective? Absolutely, especially when paired with resistance training. And should you take it? If your goal is to stay strong, independent, and mentally sharp as you age, it's certainly worth serious consideration as to whether or not you should add this into your supplement routine. I mean, it's going to be like less than $15 a month to add this supplement into your life. You just need 5 grams once a day. Skip the gimmicks, stick with the monohydrate. It's not just for bodybuilders anymore. This is for normal people who want to be healthy and active as they age. Until next time, I'm Dr. Matt.
And I'm Nicole Klingler.
And this is the Strength for Life podcast.